What's the ideal number of designs you need to launch a successful clothing brand? It's one of the most frequently asked questions of all new clothing brand entrepreneurs. I'm going to share my recommendation based upon my own experience, as well as sharing some of the critical things that you need to consider before making that decision for your own clothing brand. And stick around to the end of the video because I've got a really important tip around mindset and how you approach the whole launch of your clothing brand. Okay, so the short answer to this question is there is no right or wrong answer, but there is the best answer based upon your set of unique circumstances. So I think the first decision that you need to make is whether you're going to go with a print on demand or an inventory based business model. If you're going to carry your own inventory and fulfill your own orders, then you need to consider the impact that the number of designs, colorways and sizes is going to have on your financial position and your ability to fund that stock and also replenish that stock. So if you're going down the inventory route, the tendency would be towards probably stocking fewer designs from the outset. However, if you're going down the print on demand route, the financial outlay and risk on stock is obviously very, very minimal. It allows you to potentially carry more designs, display more designs on your website without risking putting an awful lot of your resource into carrying stock. There are obviously downsides as well to print on demand, which is something for another video. Personally, the fact that I print everything myself, indicates that I prefer the inventory route. I prefer to have the control over the full process and the fulfillment and what the customer actually receives in the end. Now, you might not be in a position where you can print yourself, but through these videos, I hope to be able to demonstrate to you that if that's something that you want to do, it's possible. I'm doing it. It's not easy, but you can do it. If you can't do that, if you don't have time, the resource or the inclination to print your own, then my recommendation would be to identify a local screen printer, probably that is recommended and who you can rely on. Now in the UK, it's not uncommon to have a minimum order quantity around a particular design. In the UK, it tends to be around 20 items. So for 20 items, for a decent t-shirt, for example, you might be paying £300, $350, something like that. So it's not a huge outlay, and across those 20 designs, you can obviously get different sizes, and it's enough to get you up and away on one design, for example, but you can easily multiply that. So for example, you could carry 20 t-shirts in 3 designs through an outlay of £1,000 or $1,000 directionally, which is enough to get you up and running. You've got a range of sizes across those designs, and it's enough to start generating some sales, which you can then reinvest. Obviously, then you have to be mindful of future minimum order quantities with your screen printer. Again, you might have to generate sales of 10 t-shirts, for example, in order to generate sufficient money to reinvest in the next 20. So managing inventory can be very, very difficult, which is why if you're going down the inventory based route, it's better to have fewer designs, because the reality is that some of those designs will probably not sell as well as the others. So you can quite easily end up with a lot of stock sat on your shelf, which is cash tied up, which you could otherwise be spending on something better. Okay, so let's take a step back for a moment and let's assume that we've decided that we're going to launch with 3 designs. We're going to invest £1,000 or $1,000 with a local screen printer to deliver 20 t-shirts in each design across a range of sizes. Now you obviously want these designs to be the best that they can possibly be at this stage. You've probably got several ideas bouncing around your head, maybe on paper, maybe on Adobe Illustrator or a similar platform. Try get some of those ideas onto a t-shirt mock-up in order that you can get some feedback from your target market. No good testing these designs with your mum, your dad, your grandma. They're not the target market. They're not going to guarantee the long-term success of your clothing brand. Yeah, by all means ask them, but don't rely on that. Try if you can, speak to your target market. In my case, I'm in the cycling apparel market. My mates are involved in that area, so I quite frequently bounce ideas around with them around new designs. So if you've got that, I recommend that you do that before you start. If you're enjoying the video, I'd appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. Thanks a lot. The next thing to consider is something that's not talked about an awful lot in relation to clothing brand startups, and that's your attitude to risk. Now, maybe you're carrying a lot of cash, in which case the temptation can be to invest a lot in initial designs, and it can actually lead you, I believe, to overcommit in terms of your stock position. So that's just something to be careful of. On the other side of the coin, you know, £1,000 for 3 t-shirt designs and 60 t-shirts might be a lot of money for you given your personal circumstances. We have all got commitments. You know, I myself have a family to think about, and you might have something similar, so you don't want to overcommit. So just bear that in mind. You know, if you've only got £500 to spend, think about launching with 1 t-shirt, because you will need to spend obviously a little bit of money around getting yourself set up with packaging and some sort of online presence. But it is doable to launch your clothing brand with 1 design and start off small and grow organically. Don't be afraid of doing that. If that's, you know, the means that you've got available to you, don't wait until you've got £2,000-3,000 built up. If you can start now and grow it, accept that it's going to take you a long time. You're not, you know, if you're going to invest hundreds, a few thousands of pounds, you're not going to have an overnight success, but it's something that you can love and nurture over the years, and better that you start now and start getting feedback that you can then use to adjust and grow. So just on that point then, you know, if you are really cash strapped but you want to get started, then maybe print on demand is the right route for you. It's not the route that I've taken, but that's not to say that it might not be right for you. As I've said before, personally I like having control over the fulfillment of the product and knowing what my end customer is getting. That might not be the luxury that you've got at the moment, and it might just feel to you that print on demand is the right route. Now, one of the great things about print on demand, as we said before at the outset, is that you can display more designs across your website and potentially give off that impression that you are a more credible brand. One of the things that you can also then do is think about not necessarily, you know, a range of half a dozen different t-shirt designs, but how can you use the benefit of a print-on-demand service to put together a capsule collection. Maybe it's a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, a hoodie and a cap. You know, something that allows the customer to buy into not just one item, but a range of items. You know, maybe they will buy 1 or 2. And because you're not outlaying the cash on, you know, hoodies, for example, they're expensive. If you're wanting to buy 20 hoodies, you know, you can quite easily be spending in the region of £1,000 to get yourself set up with a minimum order quantity on that. So print on demand has obviously got those benefits. So that's just something that you might like to consider, you know, if your attitude to risk is, you know, quite conservative, or you're not carrying an awful lot of cash to get this project off the ground. Okay, so I promised I'd tell you what I did with my own clothing brand, and I don't want you to fall into this trap yourself, because I made a mistake and I've learned from that now. But I, like a lot of other people, I think, fell into the trap of thinking that I needed to have more designs than I really did in order to launch the brand and look credible. So what I did was I identified 2 designs that I then went on to print across 4 different colours. Now that was quite easy for me to do because I'm buying in the blanks, and it's quite easy for me to print the same design on a different colour. But what that did was it created not just 2 designs to work off and to replenish, but I had 4 designs to try and keep in stock across small, medium, large, extra large. Now I wasn't doing extra small or double XL or anything like that, which maybe you are for your own market. But I gave myself too much to manage in the early stage. I should have realised and just gone with my 2 best designs and picked 1 colourway, maybe 2, but you know, 4 was too much. So this is an example of the sort of signature logo tee that we've got for the Velokind brand. I launched initially just with the little crest logo, which I felt was quite smart. So I did that on, you know, black print on a white tee, white print on navy, and a white print on heather grey, and then the fourth is the colour that I'm wearing now, which is black. So I did that for one design, the Velokind logo design, but I also then did the same across 4 different colours for the second design, which again had a little left crest print on the front, but the Discover Freedom, the brand, is all about freedom of being out on your bike and pursuing your true purpose on and off the bike, really, which is kind of what I'm trying to exemplify through the brand, and you know what I'm doing with YouTube as well. So again, I had the 4 different colorways across that design as well, which, as I say, was not too difficult from a printing perspective, but just too much to try and keep everything in stock, really. So, you know, don't make the mistake that I made. You know, if you're having this printed yourself, that's probably too much to take on anyway. But I suppose the point is, don't fall into the trap of thinking that you need more than you do to get started. Better to concentrate on really honing your brand concept, your social media content, and then getting a couple, 2 or 3 designs that you think are really spot on, that you've researched with your target market as much as you can, and get those out and you know, get them selling. It might take a little while, but you know, have faith in that, and you know, really get focused on a couple of designs to get yourself started. Okay, so I promised a bit of a bonus tip at the start of the video, and I think this is as important as anything that you've listened to up until this point, and that is to simply get started. Don't overthink this, okay? Yeah, you want to do the best that you possibly can with the money that you've got available to you, and hopefully you've got some ideas from this video, but it is never going to be perfect. The way that I launched, looking back on it now over 12 months ago, it wasn't right, you know, and you can see that I've demonstrated some of the mistakes that I've made. So with the best will in the world, it is not going to be perfect. Don't overthink and overestimate how important the launch of your brand is going to be. The launch, you know, in the grand scheme of the life of your clothing brand, is, you know, but a second in the total grand scheme of things. So yes, it's important here and now, but more important is that you make a start and that you learn from whatever it is that you decide to do initially. The launch will not make or break your brand. It's what you do in the weeks and months that come after that launch that will dictate how successful you are, and I'm sure you will be. If you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and check out this video here where I talk about how to create some next level packaging for your clothing brand. I'll see you in that video. Cheers.